demonstrator in Australia, and it is Tuesday night, so it is time for my weekly online class to go. So for anyone who is new to my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, welcome. Each week on Tuesday nights I do a live online class. So we make 3 cards, each using a featured stamp set or bundle. And then for anyone who places an order of $75 or more in my online store, that's before shipping and after any Stampin' Rewards redemption, before the end of Saturday night, I will send you the kits to make 2 each of the 3 cards from this week's class. So this week's featured bundle is the Relaxing Waterside, which is part of the Waterside Retreat suite. So I'll just switch my camera around. So these are the 3 cards for this week. And the bundle, so this is the stamp set. And so if for anyone who subscribed to Paper Pumpkin, if you've got the April kit, this suite coordinates with that kit as well. So you've got the imagery, sentiments, and then the dies. You've got dies for all of the images, including the chair, and then you've also got another set of chair dies. So you've got 2 different backings for the chair, and then the chair base as well, and these are the little armrests for the chair. So that is the bundle, and we should get started. So we will start with this one here. So this one is a Misty Moonlight card base. And then I've got some cardstock, so Basic Black and Misty Moonlight Designer Series paper. I ended up using, for the blue stripes, I actually used a different set, a different pack of paper. There is a similar one in the paper pack, but because the other side had ones that were sort of like it was lots of little separate images to cut out, and I didn't want to cut into any of those, so I decided to find something else to use with that one. So that's what I did with that, just for something different. And so we've got the other paper, which is from the Waterside Retreat paper. So this is a pretty straightforward card. I've done all the die cutting ahead of time just to save time. The chair is stamped in Pecan Pie, on Pecan Pie cardstock as well. And I just need to, that's right, I need to open a new packet, a new bottle of glue. Give me a sec. I thought I had already opened this, but apparently not. Oops. Alrighty. Hi Renee, how are you? Oops. Gotta be careful with the new bottles of glue, or you will get far too much coming out at once. Alrighty. So we get this one down. There is no ribbon or twine on these that I need to remember to adhere before I adhere this to the front, so that makes it a bit easier. Just need to make sure I do this the right way up. Alrighty. So first part nice and easy, get that down. Then we'll bring these pieces in and all my pre-cut pieces. I think there's another one hiding in there. Yes, so I use stylish shapes for the label, and then I've got 3 of the images from the set to go with this one. Where's my glue? There it is. I'm good. It is getting chilly down here, but it's not too bad. It will get a lot colder. And we did have some rain over the weekend, which is nice. We haven't had a lot, so we definitely do need some, so that was nice. Alrighty, so once that one is down, we can stick this to the front of the card. This is the nice, quick and easy card, especially once you've already done the stamping and die cutting. Alright, so once that's down, we will layer everything else. Now before I stick the chair down, I'm going to work out where I want it to sit, because I want the reeds to sit in behind about there. So I'm going to just keep the chair in place while I put this one down, just to make sure it ends up where I want it to end up. Okay. So we'll slide that in there so it'll overhang the edge. Just make sure it doesn't overhang the edge of the card base, but the edge of this center panel is absolutely fine. Then we will stick the chair down. You could pop the chair up on dimensionals as well if you wanted to. I decided to keep it flat for this one. I am going to pop up the little seagull though, but up to you how you do it. And then I'll put the cup down. That's just going to sit on the armrest there, and I've put the dimensional backings on the seagull ahead of time. So the seagull is going down there, and then all we need to do is get ink. So I'm using Misty Moonlight for this one. Ink that up. Go. And then we'll pop this one up on dimensionals as well. I'll just go with a few of the bigger ones for this. Maybe put them on the right side would help. I am going more on, actually it should be more on the top end, not the bottom end, but oh well. We'll just add, I wanted a bit more on the top end just because that's, I'm going to stick it over the edge, so it's going to overhang a bit, but oops, I did the wrong end, so it'll be fine. And apologies if you can hear my dog trying to chew her leg off in the background. I can definitely hear it. I'm hoping nobody else can. Alrighty. And we'll get that, sit that about there. And then for embellishments, I used a combination. So I used the dewdrops embellishment. So these are new in the new catalog. So I've gone with these for the sentiment, and then the other ones I originally used the rainbow adhesive dots. I actually ran out of the small ones in the pool party. I've only got the large ones left, so I found these ones, which are the party dots. These are retired, but they're recent-ish retired, and they're close enough. They're the same color, very similar style, so I figured these will do. Basically, you can use anything you want if the color matches what you want. Oh, we should do the insert. I forgot about that one. Let's get that down. Okay, so flip that over. Oops. Maybe keep holding on to it until I'm ready to put it in place, otherwise it's not going to end well. There we go, that's better. Fold that over, and there we go, first one is done. So that is the nice and quick and easy one. Not that the others are, overly long or difficult, they're just not as quick as this one. So next one, let me bring it back in, oops, is this one. So we've got some ink blending for this one. Main thing with the ink blending to be careful of when you get, because this sentiment is going up the top, you just want to be careful that you don't go too dark at the top. If you do, you can always heat emboss the sentiment, and you could always heat emboss in a different color so that it stands out a bit more if you do end up going a bit darker than intended. So there are options. It's not a disaster. It will still work. So let's just get these first bits together, and then we'll do the ink blending. So we'll just get this one down. Line that up, there we go. And then this can go on the card front. Oops, that's a bit low, let's fix that up. Alrighty, cool. That bit is done. Let's move that out of the way. I've got my basic white cardstock. Let me just double check. Yep, that is the right size. So it's only a small piece that we need to blend. So I'll just move that one to the side slightly. We are going to start with Darling Duckling. If you don't have the same colors, just use what you've got that is close enough. So, you know, if you haven't got Darling Duckling, you could use Daffodil Delight, Lemon Lolly. Any yellow is going to work. And I want to start pretty light. I don't want it too dark. I did one over the weekend that I had to, thankfully it was right at the start when I messed it up. I had to start over because I just went a little bit too dark at the start. So start light and build up. Alright, so that should be enough for now. And remember, you can always come back in and add a bit more later if you decide it's not quite dark enough. You want a bit more color. So next I am going with Timid Tiger, and again, if you don't have Timid Tiger, you could use Pumpkin Pie, even Calypso Coral would probably work. I'm going to blend that in to the yellow, and my brush is not blending as well as I would like. I'm getting a few streaks. Let's see if we can smooth those out a bit. A lot of this will be covered up anyway, so it's not a massive issue. So we want to blend into the yellow as well, just so it all blends in nicely. And I think I'm going to leave that one there. That was probably a little darker than I intended, but we'll make it work. So Strawberry Slush is next, and you could go any sort of pinkish, bright pinkish kind of color. It should work. You know, you could use Melamumbo, just be super light. And I'm going to be super light to start with this one, just to make sure. Although I think this was the one I actually needed to go a bit darker because my ink pad needs re-inking. That's alright, it's better than it being too dark. And I do want a bit of depth with the Strawberry Slush, so I do want that to be reasonably dark. I don't want it all blending into the orange and then the next color, so we do want some of that showing through. And you can blend right down into the orange with this one. Leave a little bit that's just the orange, but you can blend down into it quite a bit. more. Just going to go a bit darker now. And no, a little bit more. All right, I think we're getting there. That's looking a bit better. All right, we'll go with that for the moment. Next is Balmy Blue. And this one, I'm going to go all the way to the top. Just going to start really light just to make sure it's not too dark. Not such an issue at the top if it's dark, because I'm going to be going over that with much darker stuff, so less of an issue up the top, and blend right into the strawberry slush. And I do want to make sure there's a decent amount of blue. I was doing another sample of this one over the weekend, and I found that in trying to get the top part sort of dark enough with the final colour, which is Blackberry Bliss, I ended up with the blue sort of further down not being particularly obvious. It kind of almost went from sort of pink to purple. So I do want that blue in the middle. So I'm going to do want to make sure I've got enough, particularly in the first section. And I think that will just blend in a bit more in this edge, just so it's all blended in nicely. All right, next is Misty Moonlight. Let's see how this brush is going. And I'm going to start from the top with this one, because I'm not particularly fussed if the top ends up a bit darker than I'd like, because it's going to be quite dark or darker with the Blackberry Bliss. I just don't want too much further down. And we also need to remember to leave enough space in terms of how dark it is to be able to add the sentiment. So need to be careful with that. And I do find for this one, each time I've done this, I tend to go sort of back and forth a bit with the Misty Moonlight and Blackberry Bliss, just to get the colour that I want. So you don't have to get it perfect on your first run through with each layer of colour. You can add more. I am going to come right down the sides with the Misty Moonlight, but just not sort of right into that middle bit. I'm going to add a bit more up the top, just so that, because I do want the very top to be reasonably dark, but not not too dark, and it's a bit easier when you've got a decent layer of the Misty Moonlight and then you go over the top with the Blackberry Bliss. It just makes it a bit easier. Alright, let's leave it at that for now. We can add more afterwards if we need to. Time for Blackberry Bliss. So I'm going to start off light just to make sure I don't go overboard. And then we'll build it up. And I'm going to bring it down a bit into the Misty Moonlight. So there'll sort of be the bit at the top that is mostly the Blackberry Bliss, but then there's going to be, you know, a fair bit sort of blended in. So it's, I think it's getting there. I do want the very edges to be reasonably dark. And hey, if you mess it up, just flip it over and start again. Paper has two sides. So I'm going to come down very lightly a bit further just to get a bit more in there. But not too much. I think that's getting pretty close to what I want, and still easily able to be able to see the sentiment once we add that in. I might just add a bit more Misty Moonlight just over the sides here to blend into that section there. And a bit more on this side. Alright, I think that's pretty close to what I want. Let's go with that. And hopefully I don't mess up the next bit, because then we need to start again. Alright, so the next bit is we do need to do some stamping, and we are going to do some reverse stamping. So, where is my stamp? I've got the Reeds stamp and Memento Black. So the first one is nice and easy. We will just stamp that as you normally would. Just make sure I've got plenty of ink on there, and it's going to, you want to make sure that you bring the stamp below the edge, bottom edge, and then it'll overhang there as well. Then we want to reverse stamp. So if you have a silicone craft sheet, this is the easy way to do it. Just be careful, and you know why I know. Particularly if you're using the Stampin' Up one, there is the Stampin' Up logo in one corner, which is embossed. Don't stamp there. Not a good idea, trust me. So get your silicone mat, you're going to ink up your stamp, make sure it's well inked up. This isn't the time for light inking. This is we want it well inked up without being over inked in the sense of it being, sort of blotchy and sort of losing the detail, but you want to make sure you got plenty of ink. So make sure you have a smooth surface, and we're just going to stamp and press down. Make sure you press down well so it's as clear an image as possible. Then we're going to get the cardstock, and we want to try and get close to the edge, and I want the bottom bit to show on the other side, so that, like so, underneath, and make sure we're close to the edge. Press down, make sure your cardstock doesn't move as you do this. And make sure you rub firmly over the entire image, and then carefully peel it up. And there you have your reversed image. So I didn't quite get the bottom bits there. I didn't press down firmly enough in that section. I'm not going to try and fix that, I don't think, although I may well completely mess this up, but I say I'm not going to do it and then I am going to do it. Let's see how this goes. I may botch this. That's all right. There we go. Saved it. Looks okay. And one thing to remember with the reverse stamping, you're not going to get a perfectly crisp, clear image. So you can see there is a difference between the two. That is going to happen, but with this type of image, it doesn't matter, because one, a lot of it is going to be covered, and it's the kind of image that, it works. So don't worry about that. That is perfectly normal for it to not be, perfect. Ooh, sentiment. Before I put that away. So we get the black out again. Ink up the sentiment, and I want to make sure I go reasonably close to the top, because you want to make sure there's plenty of room for the chair. Alright, now we can finish putting this together, so we can stick that down on the basic black. Okay, and then let's bring the card back in. So that's going to go in the center there. Okay, and then all we need to do, we need to put our chair in. Now there are a few pieces to this one. So we have the chair base, and then we have the backing, this piece which will go across there, and then the two armrests. So I will stick this bit down first. Oops. So that goes down the back there, and then so that's going to sit in there. So we will add, because I didn't use adhesive sheets, surprise, surprise. Oops. This is a very new bottle of adhesive, so it does come out sometimes a bit more than I would ideally like, but that's okay because hey, I like stuff to stick. So just gonna add a bit of adhesive all the way along, and I'm going to try and get some just in behind, just so it all sticks together nicely. If you've got adhesive sheets, I do recommend it for this one. It does make it a bit easier, but not essential. Helpful, but not essential. All right, that's probably more than enough, even for me. And we will stick. Make sure that's roughly centered. Just press down gently, just in case you've got, you know, more ink, not more ink, more adhesive than you need, but then just press down a bit more firmly to hold everything into place. That end piece is going to annoy me if it doesn't stick properly. I'm going to add a bit more. You could also use glue dots. Glue dots can be, particularly when you've stuck the majority of it down and you've just got a little bit that doesn't want to stick properly, getting a glue dot in behind there can make it much easier. And this side is being difficult as well. There's not much on this one. I missed a bit too much of that one, so let's fix that. That's better. All right, then we just need this little strip. That one just goes across there. And then these little shoulder rests, which initially they look really weird and it can be difficult sometimes to work out where they're supposed to go, but they basically just go up at the top of the armrest there. Once they're on, they make a lot more sense. So the narrow bit goes up at the top there. And then the other side. Alrighty, and then all we need to do, let's get the insert out. Let's get that down before we do the embellishments. Okay, flip that over, and then embellishments with this one. I used the adhesive backed metallic gems, so these are on the last chance list. So where are we? I'm using up the last of the silver ones from this packet. Just enough. And there is the second one. All done. All right, last card. Okay, let me just move bits and pieces around. So this one is a very easy fun fold. So pool party card base. Let me find my kit. This one has a bunch of fussy cut pieces. Which I have already cut ahead of time, and some punched shapes. I'm pretty sure that I have an extra one in there, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. So first things first, we just need to cut the end off the base. So we are just cutting, and I'll just move everything out of the way. 2.5 centimeters off the card. That bit is done. Then let's bring in, I need my large piece of Misty Moonlight and my small strip of Designer Series paper. And before I stick these down, I'm just going to check and make sure that they are both the same height. They should be, but there is often a slight difference, and I think there might be here when I did an extra one. Yes, so there is a slight difference there, so I'm going to trim that down so it matches. Let's just check what, and actually my guillotine might be easier. It should be 14.1. If I put that at 14.1, it's a little bit longer. So let's that one is good. Let's see. Let's see how that's gone. If you're cutting really, really thin strips off, if you've got a guillotine cutter, you will get smoother cuts than with the trimmer for the really, really thin pieces. So far this one looks okay. So we will stick this one down. And I just want to check and make sure that the border is about even on both sides. That looks pretty good. I don't want to be pushing that one back any further. So that is good to go. And we just want to line this one up with the edge so we're not overlapping this one. It's sitting flush against the basic white. So that's good to go. So that is going on the inside there. And just adjust that slightly. There we go. It's good to go. Alrighty. Then for the front, we have the Misty Moonlight again and another piece of Designer Series paper. Okay, that's done. That goes on the front. Line that up a bit better than that. There we go, that's better. Alrighty, next we have 3 Misty Moonlight circle punches and 3 basic white. So we will stick these together. And I'm just going to trim that middle bit. Okay. So get all these down. And I'm just going to try and tuck those little bits that didn't punch quite so cleanly, just tuck those underneath. Once you've got them underneath, just press down so that they stay underneath. And the final one. And just trim that tiny bit of that. Alrighty. So then, actually I'm going to fold this over because it makes it a bit easier to line everything up. So the top and bottom circles line up with, you want them to line up with the edge of, or the bottom and top edges of the DSP, and up to you how close to the edge on this side you go, but you know, roughly, yeah, sort of halfway-ish, just keep it even, and then the middle one is going to overlap slightly. So once you are happy with where you want it to go, just, so what I do with the adhesive, I flip it over so that I can have it lined up and I can see the edge of my cardstock, so I know how far or what the maximum area to cover the adhesive so you don't go over. And I would make your border a little bit in from the edge, and just be careful that you, when you flip it over, that you do it straight, because you don't want to be sort of flipping it over on an angle. You want to keep it straight. That probably needs to come out a bit. I'm just going to check. Just going to double check on this side, just to make sure I don't have adhesive showing through. I can come a little bit further. That's about where I want to be. All right, so that's good. And I'm going to do same thing with this one. I'm going to lay this one over the top because I know where I want that one to go. And hey, some people are really good at eyeballing this, and if you're one of those people, you don't have to do it this way. Just go with what works for you. But I know I am very likely to mess it up, so that is why I take those extra precautions to keep it as even as possible and minimize the risk of ending up with adhesive where I don't want it. That's about right. I'm just going to shuffle this one up a little bit. It's a little bit too, that's better. It's a bit too far down. Much better. Alrighty. So that bit is done. Then I have fussy cut a whole bunch of pieces. So I've got 2 of the jackets and the oars, and then I've got, yes, I do have extra fish, so that one is going in the middle, and I just need to work out, yes, all right. So with this one, you just want to be mindful, particularly, so this one, my original card, I had these all popped up popped up on dimensionals. These ones I had flat. So I've got that one there, so they're all sitting flat, and I've got the little anchor trinket in the corner, and because of the way that fish was facing, that was fine. When I did this one, I decided to pop them up, and I'd forgotten about this until after I'd stuck these down and realized that one, this was too far down, so just be careful when you placing them, and if it's facing that way, it's, you know, you need to be more careful than if it's facing the other way. So just bear that in mind. So I'm actually going to get one of these out now. So these are the loose anchor trinkets. Oh, already trying to escape. So if I want that to sit about there, and you can always adjust, you know, where everything is going to sit. So I'm going to move those up slightly, and you can always stick this one down first and then put the fish over the top, or just angle it differently to make it fit. It is up to you. I am the other option. Let's see how this works. Still kind of got the same problem, but you can always go that way. Although actually, I think based on my original thinking, I think I was meant to go with just a straight one. I had sort of the rounded, the straight, and the curved tail. So let's go like that. All right, so we need dimensionals. We'll do the jackets first. Do the oar in a minute. That one we just need to be careful with, and we do need to cut some thin strips for that one, but not all the way down. So one jacket there. Oops, trying to escape. Come on. They do not want to come off tonight. All right. Let those do the oar in a minute. Let's do the fish. Might need to get another pack of mini dimensionals out very soon. And I will just cut that. Should be enough for that one. Is that one thin enough? I'm actually going to move this one over here. I just want that one there to be a little bit thinner. It will bug me. If I can see it through, it will annoy me. Although this one does not want to stay anymore. There we go, that's better. Let's do this next one. Running out of my little ones, but I have more. Always more. Okay, that one there, we haven't done the oar yet, that's coming, which is why that one is flying around. Alright, I'm out of, well, this sheet. Just this sheet, I got plenty more to pull out. Okay, and we'll just be careful with the placement of this one. Just so we don't mess up the anchor. So that's going there, this one can go there, so that will work fine. Now, so for the oar, we just need to be careful. Let me see if I can find another sheet of minis, because we don't want need it all the way down. Now where did my, just working out which is the better pieces to go with, because we want fairly narrow here. Hopefully that one's not too thick, and we've got the shitties. I'm going to take that one off and try again with a one that's just a bit thinner. If it will cooperate. There we go, that's better, and that should cover basically where we want it to sit. You do need to be careful with these fussy cut pieces, particularly the oar, as they are quite, it's paper, they're fairly thin, and when you've got little thin pieces, you do want to be careful with them. Right, we will stick that on in a minute. We need to do the sentiment, so going back to Misty Moonlight ink, and it's time to take my gloves off. It's cold in here, but it gets quite warm under the light, so let's find the sentiment. And I'm going to use the 3-burner punch to punch this one out. And then I have a second one that I cut out earlier in Misty Moonlight. So we'll cut that in half. Add a little bit of adhesive to the end. And I'm just wondering if I need to recut that one, because yes I do, that doesn't have a nice sharp edge, so I will grab another piece of Misty Moonlight in just a sec. Let's get this side down. Now, do I have any spare pieces up here? Probably not big enough. That is not big enough. That's alright. I have plenty. Just find my packet. And there we are. My trusty folder of scraps. So we'll punch out another one. Don't even need a full one of this actually, we just need a partial. That looks better. Just move that out of the way. Alrighty. And we'll get the second piece down. Okay. Make sure the border's roughly even. That looks good enough. And I'm just going to use some of the big dimensionals, though I just realized I probably don't want that one right there. I actually want, oops, probably need them on just on either side, because we've got the ore up on dimensionals, so I reckon that is probably, that's better. Alrighty. So we want the gap in the ore, also the gap in the sentiment dimensionals to cover basically where the ore is going to go, and straight-ish. And then, now, to adhere this one, I went with glue dots. So I basically got, I think I did about 4 all up. So I rolled them up and I put one at the top. Actually, I may have done 4 or 5. One at the top, one at the bottom, one at each side. And because you've got to remember that these trinkets are a little heavier than most of your typical embellishments, so you do want to make sure it is, it does have reasonable adhesive. This isn't something you just put one tiny glue dot in, in one little spot and then that's it. You want to spread it out a bit. And then you can get away with the 4. I'm going to add another one in the center just in case. So if you roll them up so that they're reasonably small, and remember you can always tuck the bits of adhesive underneath. Once you stick it down, any bits that are sticking up, just tuck them underneath. So that should be enough. So pop that down. Anything that you can see, just pop it underneath. Okay, maybe that center one there isn't the best. I might take that one out. I think the 4 is going to be sufficient. So that's fine. We'll just go with 4. The only other thing to add is some of the metallic adhesive backed gems. So I'm just going to add a couple to the sentiment, and let's straighten that one up. That is not quite where I wanted it. That looks a bit better. And there we go. That is the final card. Alrighty, let me bring everything back in. Where are the other 2? So we have that one and our first one. Alrighty, so these are the 3 cards for this week's class, and you have until the end of Saturday night to get your orders in if you want the kits. So $75 minimum before shipping and after any Stampin' Rewards. And that is it from me for tonight. Thank you, Renee. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the projects. Next week is, what is next week? Cutest Crew. The Cutest Crew bundle. So that will be next week. Once again, thank you for joining me. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you like the projects, if you want to see more of my classes and other videos, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And until next week, have fun, happy crafting. Bye.